In 1965, Lamborghini showcased the Miura prototype chassis in the Turin Auto Show. The car would not debut in its full form until 1966. From that modest, seemingly simple first impression, the chassis would go on to define the archetype of the supercar in the modern era. In 2021, I asked the Nordic Weasel Games Discord server for intro ideas for this video. One of the regulars suggested this historic sports car anecdote as a metaphor for the system. Initially, I was apprehensive about using it because I wanted to do a silly goof with my models, but the more I thought about it, the more it stuck. Just what kind of system could drive a person to wax poetic about sports cars? I cannot approach a Squadhammer Core in the same way I would most other systems. That is because Squadhammer Core's goals are quite different from your standard miniatures game. For one, it does not have a pre-packaged setting, nor does it work in a specific genre. Like a certain Lamborghini project in 1965, Squadhammer Core is a chassis that you are meant to build a play experience around. One of the very first things the rulebook asks you to do is to put models on the table. Squadhammer Core, much like even Sorensen's other popular title, 5 Parsecs from Home, encourages you to start playing as soon as you can. In Squadhammer Core's case, however, it also asks you, what exactly do you want to play? In 2020, I attempted to write a wargame, and I succeeded. The prototype of the fully interchangeable tactical engagement system came into being after 3 months of writing and playtesting. Fights is a platoon-scale, model-agnostic system designed for the player who wants to buy a whole bunch of toy soldiers. It did not come with a prepackaged setting, and it did not work around any particular genre. It was a chassis designed for the player to build their army around. It was 100% playable, and it was awful. I did not enjoy playing my own game, and for that reason, I will never release it to the public. The weeks I spent building that system taught me a valuable lesson in wargame design. You can have a rule set with which to have a fight, but without any context, it will fall on its face. Fights, a system of my own design, absolutely provided a tactical challenge, but to my deep frustration, it did not tell an interesting story. In 2021, I tested out Squadhammer Core for the first time. In the bones of the system's intent, I saw fights. I saw that it had done what I wanted with fights with a quarter of the word count and a fraction of the math. More importantly, despite not having a prepackaged setting, despite not working in any particular genre, Squadhammer Core provides context. Squadhammer Core makes sure that context is king by making the player care about the context. To demonstrate the mindset needed to play Squadhammer Core, I will walk you through a few of my own games. Before we touch on the game's system, it is important to note that I will not be delving into the game's on-table mechanics too deeply because the ideals of the game are a bit more holistic. That said, given what I have played, I am fully ready to play Squadhammer Core on the list of systems that are fun to play even without objectives or a campaign. In my first game of Squadhammer Core, I took my Dukes and my Laser Cultists from my custom 5 Parsecs from Home setting. I split them up into even squads, designating a leader model for each side. Squadhammer Core is an I-Go-You-Go system with a robust amount of interaction during either player's turns. Each player has a variable amount of orders per turn, influenced by the contextual quality of your command units and your troops. Each order is carried out one at a time until the maximum orders are issued, with each unit choosing between the 5 kinds of orders. Ranged combat works off a roll of a 2d6 compared against a contextual target number. followed up with a d6 damage roll. Within a certain range, ranged combat can result in reactive fire. Up-close combat is resolved simultaneously with a contested roll of 2 6-sided dice. The rolls are modified once more by context. But where does this context come from? What determines the modifiers attached to your rolls? This is where Squadhammer Core starts doing its real work. There is no list building per se in Squadhammer Core. There are no point values, there is no force organization, there are no special unit rules. Not unless you want there to be. The substitute for all of that will come naturally once you put down your toy soldiers, once you start rolling the dice. In my first game, I immediately decided that the Dukes would have an advantage in melee, cause come on, look at them. The laser cultists, who are avid gun enjoyers, would of course get an advantage in shooting. In my setting, the Dukes are the more organized gang, so it made sense for them to also have the extra dice for the orders roll. But the laser cultists no doubt had more powerful laser weaponry, so I gave their damage rolls a bonus modifier. And just like that, I was translating my unseen headcanon that I had for my beloved models into mechanics. Squadhammer Core was helping me make custom units. I resolve the game, the gangs shoot each other, the laser cultists come out on top, and I immediately started making them vehicles. Game 2 involved the same lists, but this time with a unique vehicle on either side. Once more, I stat them up largely according to appearance and flavor and run the game's suggestions for vehicle rules. At this point, Squadhammer Core had helped me make 2 custom factions that had previously just lived in my head. It had assisted in making a narrative not just within combat, but also without, helping me further grow the setting that 5 parsecs from home had seeded. I had to see what else the system could do. For Game 3, I shifted play to Tabletop Simulator to accommodate a larger model count and a more involved set of terrain. I also changed genres, playing on a Mordheim map with Mordheim models. This time, I tested out Squadhammer Core's objectives from its meaty Mission Builder section. I loaded up a map I liked, loaded up some neat looking models, and I let the resulting visuals guide the story of my setup. In this game's case, I decided that the Skaven had to take at least one of the ships from the humans who were guarding them. Once again, I statted out the units based entirely on how I felt they would perform, according to what I knew of their lore and according to the visuals of the models. Then the scenario was set up to have the humans on the defensive on the docks. As I played through the game, I would make changes to certain units if I felt they were too strong. Guns, for example, initially had bonus damage, but I took them off because they were a little bit too overwhelming. By the end of this game, most of the Skaven had been successfully routed, but one group of clan rats had sneakily boarded a boat, making the scenario a winning struggle in favor of the rats. Setting up for this next game, I already had an idea of how the units would behave from the 2 games prior. With the support of that knowledge, I could now add in objectives to further drive the game's narrative. Once you start thinking about that layer of the game, once you put your mind into objectives, you are already letting Squadhammer Core teach you how to build scenarios. For the final game, we will take things one step further. On page 28 of the rulebook, under the General Objective and Award section, Squadhammer Core makes an offhand reference to having a Game Master. These days, having a Game Master for a miniatures game is something of an ancient concept, but it did get me thinking. I decided to run the final game for 2 other people, with me as the referee, as the game's master. Knowing the genre that would best work with my buddies, I settled on a mobster theme. I went onto Hero Forge and designed some characters. Then I meepled up the screen grabs of my work through Tabletop Simulator's custom token tool. I gave 4 of these mobsters specific names and split them up into 2 rival families. Each family would also have access to 3 more generic crew members. Each mobster and each crew member type had their own distinct modifiers, which I set up on their playing piece for easy reference. Using the mission builder prompts, I designed a simple objective grab for the scenario using a narcotic MacGuffin as the primary mobile objective. They put it. There they are. You'll be after the drugs.
Yo, it's a pack of cigarettes.
One family defends the MacGuffin and the other family attempts to take it. With the scene set up, I play the game with my friends and proceed to have a good time.
You can't put Frankie over there. The car's over here. How do you get over there? Explain that.
Frankie took a walk around.
For this game, I did not teach my buddies the rules of Squad Hammer Core. I did not send them any rules references. I did not tell them the math behind the modifiers. They simply turned up. I told them the lowdown, and they told me what they wanted their dudes to do. As the game master, I facilitated all of the crunchier parts of the system.
Yeah.
It's on the corner of the map, then he shoots, then 2d6 looking for 4s.
Good night, Twitch boy. Are you fucking kidding me?
Good night, Twitch boy.
This setup made it so that 2 Wargame newbies, completely unfamiliar with the rules, could enjoy themselves in a session that lasted just under an hour. This is Squad Hammer Core's main feature. Its biggest trick is teaching you the mindset of narrative-facing mechanics of game design through storytelling. It makes you ask yourself, what exactly is it that you want to play? And then it helps you create that experience. Over a couple of weeks with Squad Hammer Core, I achieved something that 3 months spent designing my own wargame could not get me. A way to play that could engage my non-wargaming buddies. There's a few more things I could talk about in regards to the system, but Squad Hammer Core has such a simple engine that explaining it any further might spoil the rulebook. The digital book is pay what you want on Wargame Vault, so if you are interested, it is quite accessible. And if you want to see the full realization of what Squad Hammer's core system can do, you can check out the list of hammer systems on Wargame Vault. Of particular interest here is Chrome Hammer Ascension, which we will be talking about in the future. Just in case I haven't made it clear yet, a Squad Hammer Core is a narrative game. If you are used to the usual format of bringing in your own list and fighting the other guy's lists, this will prove to be a wildly different beast. Like Joe McCullough said in that one interview on wargamer.com, narrative wargaming is a mindset. Now, I'm gonna have a go at this. I am going to have a take on this. Wargaming is MMA. Narrative wargaming is professional wrestling. I will elaborate on this take in the future. In the meantime, if you want a crash course in not just what narrative gaming is, but also on how to actually game in a manner that is narrative, Squad Hammer Core is going to be your best intro. As always, I will leave links in the description. To close this video today, I would like to present some more choice footage of me playing Squad Hammer Core with my buddies. This is what this hobby is all about. Thank you so much for watching. Oh,
Yes!
Bullshit. Again, joke dice. I bought these in Vegas. I bought dice that only land on ones. You guys, they were red too. They were red.
yeah, there you go. That is what wargaming is like.
Nice.
That was just Tom and Jerry.
That was a bit of a Tom and Jerry, wasn't it?
I
Run.
love how I've set up the stable and you play on literally 5% of it. On like a not even a foot, just about a 1x1 area.
Eat up.
Heat up.
Eat the fuck up.
Heat up.
Who wants to flip the table? Good stuff.
We're all floating in the abyss.
This is how fucking astronauts eat.